Good morning. Welcome to our Epiphany Poetry Chapel this morning. I always look forward to these days greatly. Many thanks to Dr. Don Duncan for the planning and preparation, the gathering together of this day, and to the Cobber Poets Society for reading this morning, for inviting us into this poetry. To Nicole Kippen, Melissa Kurtz, Megan Orcholsky, Megan Schindler, and Dalton Schneider for reading. We prepare ourselves for this day in song with verses 1 and 2 of hymn number 588.
All of life, from birth to what follows death, is a mystery born of God's love for us. Creation is a mystery. Suffering and endurance that leads to salvation is a mystery. Joy in the midst of sorrow, the ability to love, the leap to faith, all is mystery. Today, O God, O people, let us embrace the mystery. We begin where it all begins, the mystery of creation, the mystery of Christ.
Presence by Susan Sherwin. Mystery of mysteries, God's active presence in creation, not from a distance, as Bette Midler sings, but among you, says the Christ. We do not always see, we do not always sense. I laugh when I hear that the fish in the water is thirsty, wrote Kabir, among you, says the Christ. We do not always see, we do not always sense. But sometimes there is a taste, a glance, a touch on the arm, a whispered song, a fragrance, and we see among us.
Tiger by William Blake. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the Lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry?
The Sycamore by Wendell Berry. In the place that is my own, whose earth I shaped in and must bear, there is an old tree growing, a great sycamore that is a wondrous healer of itself. Fences have been tied to it, nails driven into it, hacks and whittles cut in it, and the lightning has burned it. There is no year it has flourished, in that it has not harmed it. There is a hollow in it, that is its death, though its living brims whitely at the lip of the darkness and flows outward. Over all its scars has become the seamless white of the bark. It bears the gnarls of its history healed over. It has risen to strange perfection in the warp and bending of its long growth. It has gathered all accidents into its purpose. It has become the intentions and radiance of its dark fate. It is a fact, sublime, mystical, and unassailable. In all its country there is no other like it. I recognize in it a principle, an indwelling the same as itself and greater, that I would be ruled by it. I see that it stands in its place and feeds upon it, and is fed upon and is native and maker.
Situation number 33, The Feast, by David Citino. You're told the ingredients have been assembled for the sake of love, wine and bread, fennel, honey and leeks, laurel and bay to represent your political importance and weigh with words, a sampling of fabulous beasts and birds, fruits and meats to symbolize labor, salt, the apple and lamb. You're told the entertainment will consist of your slow dismemberment to the pulse of bass drums, the plodding cadence of Gregorian chant, screams of your parents and children. You're told it will hurt like nothing else, but after it's over, your very best friends will take you home with them and place you on altars in the midst of music and yearning. Place you near fire, teach their children to sing your name. Do you accept?
John 13 through 31, 35. The mystery is that Jesus did accept. He became the sacrifice of love for us so that no one need sacrifice again to come close to God. All we need to do is accept the service of loving God and one another, the mystery of sacrifice and love. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God had been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and as I say to the Jews, so now I say to you, where am I going? You cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another.
Just as I have loved you, you should also love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love me, for you have loved one another.
It Happens Like This by James Tate. I was outside St. Cecilia's rectory smoking a cigarette when a goat appeared beside me. It was mostly black and white, with a little reddish brown here and there. When I started to walk away, it followed. I was amused and delighted, but wondered what the laws were on this kind of thing. There's a leash law for dogs, but what about goats? It's not my goat, I explained. It's the town's goat. I'm just taking my turn caring for it. I didn't know we had a goat, one of them said. I wonder when my turn is. Soon, I said. Be patient. Your time is coming. The goat stayed by my side. It stopped when I stopped. It looked up at me, and I stared into its eyes. I felt he knew everything essential about me. We walked on. A policeman on his beat looked over. "That's a mighty fine goat you got there," he said, stopping to admire. "It's the town's goat," I said. "His family goes back 300 years with us," I said, "from the beginning." The officer leaned forward to touch him, then stopped and looked up at me. "Mind if I pat him?" he asked. "Touching this goat will change your life," I said. "It's your decision." He thought real hard for a minute and then stood up and said, "What's his name?" "He's called the Prince of Peace," I said. "God, this town is like a fairy tale. Everywhere you turn, there's mystery and wonder, and I'm just a child playing cops and robbers forever. Well, please forgive me if I cry." "We forgive you, officer," I said. "And we understand why you, more than anybody, should never touch the prince." The goat and I walked on. It was getting dark, and we were beginning to wonder where we would spend the night.
Though Christ's sacrifice is once for all, we are not spared suffering in this life. But in following Jesus' example, we too can learn to find solace in sorrow, strength in endurance, and dance despite the pain, letting the joy of the mystery work its way in us, as the wheel of life spins full circle and we place our faith in the creator of the mystery. Suffering by Susan Sherwin. We think that suffering means misery, the bearing down upon us of pain, the crushing weight of tragedy. But suffering, if we look closely at the word itself, means to bear up under. To bear up under. Suffering is not what happens to us, but how we react to what happens to us. There is an aspect of ascension to suffering. It is meant not to be crushed. There is an aspect of resurrection to suffering. It is not to be defeated. There is an aspect of eternity to suffering. It is not to be destroyed, but to bear up under. To bear up under. It is as St. Paul said, so mysteriously, "When I am weak, then I am strong."
Borderline Mambo by Rita Dove. As if the lid stayed put on the marmalade. As if you could get the last sip of champagne out of the bottom of a fluted glass. As if we weren't all dying. As if we weren't going to die sometime. As if we knew for certain when or how. As if the baseball scores made sense to the toddler. As if the dance steps mattered, or there's a point where they don't. For instance, wheelchair, heart flutter, oxygen bottle mounted on the septuagenarian's back at the state ballroom competitions. That's Manny. Still pumping the mambo with his delicious slip of an instructor. Hip, hip, hooray. Mambo, for instance, if done right, gives you a chance to rest. 1 beat in 4, 1 chance in 4, 1 chance in 10, 100, as if we could understand what that means. Hooray. Keep pumping, as if you could keep the lid on a secret once the symptoms start to make sense. A second instance, a respite. A third, always hope. Always that hope. If we could just scrape that last little bit out, if only it wouldn't bottom out before they could decode the message sent to the cells. Of course it matters when, even though, because we live in mystery. For instance, beauty, love, honor, as if we didn't like secrets. Point where it hurts. Of course we'll tell.
The Wheel by Wendell Berry. At the first strokes of the fiddle bow, the dancers rise from their seats. The dance begins to shape itself in the crowd as couples join, and couples join couples, their movement together lightening their feet. They move in an ancient circle of the dance. The dance and the song call each other into being. Soon they are one, wrapped into a single rapture, so even the night has its clarity. And time is the wheel that brings it round. In this rapture, the dead return. Sorrow is gone from them. They are light. They step into the steps of the living and turn with them in the dance in the sweet enclosure of the song. And timeless is the wheel that brings it round.
I Never Saw a Moor by Emily Dickinson. I never saw a moor. I never saw the sea, yet know I how the heather looks, and what a wave must be. I never spoke with God, nor visited in heaven, yet certain am I of the spot, as if the chart were given.
Pray with me. Many and great, O God, are thy works. Many and great are thy mysteries. Life and death, love, suffering, joy, holiness. Help us to celebrate your creation of all that is around us and within us, to embrace this life you give us. God of mercy, hear our prayer. You plant the seed of sorrow in unexpected places, family, friends, love. Help us to support and bear one another in times of sorrow, to be the gift of healing and love, your hands and heart on the earth for others. God of mercy, hear our prayer. You plant the seeds of life in unexpected places, sorrow, crosses, tombs. Help us to see the light that shines even in the darkness, the life that emerges even in the face of death, and gives us the strength to endure and a kernel of hope that can grow into new life. God of mercy, hear our prayer. You plant the seeds of joy in unexpected places, pierced hands, darkness, death, and holiness and radiance and life spring forth. Help us, O Creator and Nurturer, to celebrate this mystery of joy, the mystery of life, this mystery of love today and always. God of mercy, hear our prayer.
Receive the blessing. May God bless our singing, praying, and hearing as we go to serve neighbor and world. Amen. God's light, mystery, and grace guide our way. Thanks be to God.